and welcome back to another episode of M's Kitchen. Today, we are going to be making a great late night snack, which is edible cookie dough. So the edible cookie dough is just eggless cookie dough. They use just different binding elements in order to get the same texture as cookie dough without the risk of getting sick from eating a raw egg. So the first thing I'm going to do is take 1 tablespoon of softened butter, which I softened by microwaving the bowl, just the bowl, not the butter, for 30 seconds, and then I put the butter in the bowl. That way it's not melted butter, it's softened butter, because the heat from the bowl just melts it slowly instead of a microwave can heat it up too fast. So I'm going to add that to a big bowl. And then I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of peanut butter. I'm using freshly ground peanut butter just because it's what I had in the apartment, and I think it tastes better. It's healthier for you. There's no added sugars or anything like that. It's just peanuts. I mean, I ground them myself at the store. It's literally just peanuts. So I'm going to add that into the mix. And then the last thing that I'm going to add is a half a cup of brown sugar. So I'm just going to... and you need to make sure when you're measuring brown sugar to pack it down because typically it's just understood that if you're adding brown sugar, it's a packed cup or a packed whatever measurement it may be. And if it's not supposed to be packed, then your recipe will let you know. But if it doesn't say anything, always make sure you pack it down really tightly to ensure that you're getting your measurements correct. Especially with baking. It's a little bit different if you're cooking, but baking is more of a science and it's really exact, so you have to make sure all your measurements are right on the nose. So if you have a stand mixer, you can use that here, but I'm just going to use a whisk, and first I'm just going to kind of like smash, almost like I'm mashing potatoes, to break up the butter and the peanut butter a little bit, and then I'm just going to whisk this all together. If you're using a whisk, it is a little bit harder than using a stand mixer. You just have to kind of clean out your whisk, like I'm doing here with the spatula every now and again, and you might want to alternate and use your spatula some too. It just kind of depends on how, you know, what kind of tools you have and how much effort you're willing to put in, honestly. So I'm going to mash this up a little bit more. And if worst comes to worst, the best kitchen tool you've got is your hands, honestly. So just use your hands if you need to. Just don't be afraid to get in there and get a little dirty, because that's the fun part of cooking. So we're just going to get all of this nice and combined. It's starting to smell really good. Okay, so now all of my stuff is combined. It's a pretty gritty, coarser texture, almost like a body scrub if you've ever used a body scrub. That's the best way I can think to describe it. I'm just going to run and wash my hands. Okay, now that my hands are nice and clean, I am going to add keep that right here for when I get messy again, because inevitably it will happen. So I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of milk. I am allergic to dairy, so I'm using vanilla almond milk, but feel free to use just regular milk or any other like nut-based milk you might want to add. A little bit of vanilla. The recipe calls for about 1/8 of a teaspoon. I am adding a splash because my my peanut butter is unsweetened, so it's going to be a little bit less sweet anyway, and I don't want to add more sugar, so I'm adding a little bit of vanilla. But you need to be careful when you're adding vanilla because it is alcohol-based. It's a solution, extract is. So how they get the vanilla flavor out is they absorb it in alcohol. So you need to be careful because obviously it's not really alcoholic, but it can have a weird taste to it if you add too much. So you have to be really careful with that. I'm also going to add 1/3 of a cup of flour. I'm going to sprinkle that in. Just kind of evenly distribute. Um, there we go. And looks like I missed a little bit of the milk. There's not a whole lot of liquid in this recipe, so I want to make sure I get it all. Now I'm just going to use my spatula to kind of cut this in at first and then start to do folds. So just spin the bowl while you do the cutting motion, and that really helps to combine the liquids and the dry elements in a more even way that's not going to give you like a weird chunky texture. Just keep on kind of cutting and folding and cutting and folding, and then once it's a very dry and crumbly sort of feel to it, you can see that it just kind of crumbles in my hands, then just get in there with your hands and really like work it into it until it's like a very doughy texture, like typical cookie dough. There's plenty of kitchen tools that you could use to do this as well if you didn't want to get dirty. Again, you could use a stand mixer, a hand mixer, a whisk, but I really just prefer to use my hands. I feel like it gives me a better feel of where the dough is and what the texture is going to be if I need to add more liquid, more of a dry element. It's just always best, I think, to use your hands when you're cooking. They are the absolute best tools you can have in the kitchen. So now I'm kind of just working the dough in my hands, and as you can see, it has come together in a nice ball, just like this. So you can just literally just take a bite and eat it. It's absolutely delicious. It tastes just like real cookie dough. You can't bake with it. You could add a banana as an egg substitution because they add the leavening power that you need to make a real cookie. But if you just wrap this up in plastic wrap, it'll last for about a week in the fridge. Not that it will last that long in my apartment, in my class an hour. Thanks again for tuning in to Emma's Kitchen. I hope you enjoyed what we did today.